What's up, guys? That Really Gross Guy here, and we are back, and today we're going to talk about some of the Warframe changes that are coming to the game here very shortly. Let me just make sure it is up. It is. Alright, so, Ash. Well, let's first off, let's just say that I'm not going to go over every single frame in detail. I'll talk about some of the controversial frames at the moment that are kind of getting their reworks, and I'll kind of hit on a couple different ideas that I think are actually being done well about these reworks real quick. But I chose Ember because there's already controversy around Ember's rework. I don't know if I would consider this a rework. Kind of like a just changes. There's just changes to the frames in general. But we're gonna run a real quick Arbiters of Hexus Syndicate mission because I need some Syndicate points to roll some for some some relics. So we're gonna do that today. But first off, when it comes to the frames, like I said, keep in mind that these are subject to change. Possibly these are like the second iteration of the changes, and this is obviously based on player feedback, which is great, which is why I think BE does a great job when it comes to a lot of these, maybe not necessarily every single one, but a lot of these changes that come to all the frames in the game. So I just want to say, you know, it does make a difference being vocal to DE, and it definitely makes a difference to be constructive, have constructive criticism when you talk to DE. So first off, we've talked about Ash just a little bit in the past when it comes to his changes, where his fourth ability, his ultimate, his Blade Storm, is going to be to the point where the last time he was reworked, it was made so that he could kind of target individual enemies, and then he would go into a Blade Storm and hit all of those individual enemies. Now, what they're doing is making it so that now you can target all those enemies and have these clones do their attacking for you. So you can continue to stay out of the animation and kill some enemies if you choose to do so. I think that's a really good idea. People have been talking back and forth about maybe we should make it so that you can lethal teleport, you know, the really strong enemies like the bombards, or the heavy gunners, or whatever, that you think are more of a threat, especially if they're Xmas units. And then if you want to jump into the animation, you just hit 4 again. So there's still a little back and forth on which button we should use to join the Blade Storm. I personally would rather see it hit 4 to see all the enemies, hit 4 to start the animation process, and then hit 4 to join the animation yourself. Right now I believe it is hit 3 to jump into the animation because it's kind of based around that lethal teleport type deal. However, like people are saying, I would like to see the lethal teleport stay so that I can target, like I said, a heavy bombard, or not, a heavy gunner, a bombard, Xmas units of any of those, or whoever. I think it would be better to keep my lethal teleport available to me whenever I want. I don't know, but right now his changes after the first dev workshop, his changes on top of that is they're going to reduce the energy cost of Blade Storm ticks. So every time you set up a Blade Storm on an enemy, because you can set up to 3 ticks, each tick will cost less energy, which I think is actually going to be fairly good, but I feel like that's kind of kicking it back to the old Blade Storm where you could kind of spam it. Obviously you can't spam it as much because you still have to individually target the enemies, but I feel like it still could be more spammy. Anyways, I mean, you can kind of get that achievement if you just up your efficiency anyways, so who am I to judge? But anyways, other than that, that's all that additional changes to Atlas, or to Ash. Atlas would be kind of the next frame. There were some changes that revolved around him and the way he petrifies enemies. They're now going to make it so that his petrify ability is less single cast. So instead of you casting like a breath attack, it would be one single burst, and everybody in front of you that is hit by that burst will be instantly petrified. I'm okay with that. I'm not much of an Atlas player, so I'm a little bit indifferent. So if you guys are Atlas players, I would love to hear your opinions. I never used really his petrify as is because I felt like it was underwhelming. So I'm welcoming any type of change that will make this better. So that is what it is. I won't go into too much detail. Atlas has seen a little bit extra when it comes to his rubble and stuff like that. Such as his rubble doesn't necessarily stack, but it does refresh his rubble. So his armor ability will, or the benefits of rubble will last longer as long as you continue to pick up more. This will take a moment. We'll see. Once we get our hands on these changes, we'll see if it's really that good or not. But Banshee, I guess, because I felt like them changing her Quake was still a little bit too powerful. It looks like that her resonating Quake, at least, is going to expand outwards. You're still going to be able to place it in a section. It's going to expand outwards, and it's going to damage all the enemies once. It's gonna damage them on the way out. So it's not gonna have that lasting effect, that pulsing effect to damage enemies. So I'm not too crazy about that because Banshee was kind of a frame that would kind of lock down enemies and stagger them, keep them vulnerable to attacks, and I like that about Banshee. Even though I wasn't a Banshee player, I could have appreciation for a Banshee that would do something like that. I understand them wanting to nerf the ability so that you can't just like clear waves and waves and waves of enemies just by sitting there, kind of like Ember is doing now. But I feel like I don't feel that comfortable. Then again, I'm not a Banshee player, so I'm curious once again what you guys think about Banshee. Chroma, we're going to be seeing some good changes to him where, well, they were technically nerfs at first, but now we're seeing a little bit of buffs to those nerfs. And what I mean by that is his aura, his auras that can buff, like, you know, armor and his Vex armor, that's what it's called, is going to have increased range. It started out where it only had like 12 meters of range, which is not far at all. If I can, yeah, it's about that far. So allies have to be within a circle of that far in order to see the benefits. They're actually extending that. This is base, by the way. It could be probably adapted by range, but now it is changing to be about that far. Not that much. Not that much of a difference, but with range buffs and stuff like that, that extra 4 meters is probably going to be a big deal. I'd rather have the extra 4 meters than just the 12. Let's put it that way. Now, this still could be arguably a nerf, and I'm pretty sure from people who know Chroma well enough, they could very easily argue that this is a nerf, and I probably agree. My little knowledge based around Chroma, it sounds like this is still a nerf, so take that with, you know, I don't know. Just take it how you want. But after Chroma, we are seeing Ember. Speak of the devil. Okay, let's not get killed by a bombard right now. Ember. So we're not seeing any. Well, there were the original changes where her World on Fire is going to be shorter or smaller range. It's going to also take more energy to keep it running, so that's crappy. We're seeing additional changes, however, none of them have anything to do with World on Fire. So, but one of which is her Fireball ability, which I'll cast for you real quick, right there. Her Fireball ability, really not all that useful. there's almost no reason whatsoever to cast it, especially if you have a decent World on Fire and, let's say, Accelerant. But currently, it's just flat attack damage. It's going to be to the point where you can charge it, I don't know for how long, but you can charge it up for additional damage. I don't know if that's going to take more energy, probably will take some energy. I don't know if you can charge it till it absorbs all of your energy and it just does an absurd amount of damage. I doubt it. It's probably just going to like go up to double and that's it. I don't know. And then her fireball is also going to leave behind a napalm, like a kind of like the napalm bombard type dudes, the napalms. They'll leave a little fire thing on the ground or wherever they hit, and if you're standing within it, you'll take some damage. They're going to make it so Fireball basically does the same thing. It'll leave behind a little section of fire that will damage enemies. Now, I don't know if this is going to be affected by range, but I'm kind of okay with that. It's better than nothing. Fireball already is pretty not all that useful, but it's not really convincing me to use Fireball a lot. I mean, I might use it from time to time if I see a good use for it, but I don't know. I mean, like I said, better than nothing. I would still like to see more done. Trust me, I would still like to see more done, but it is what it is. Fire Blast will now add heat damage to anything that's, well, I don't want to say anything that goes through it, but bullets at least that go through it. It's going to add heat damage to it. I'm wondering if you, let's just show you real quick. Actually, we need some energy. Oh, my World on Fire is on. Oops. So, and there's a little medallion over there that I'm going to pick up. But let's say you cast your Fire Blast. Now, all your stuff you shoot through it will add heat damage to it. Similar to Volt's little barrier. His adds electricity. Yours is going to add heat. Now, I'm wondering if I cast Fireball through it, is it going to buff my Fireball even farther? We don't know. We don't know yet. But it says Fire Blast will add heat damage to weapons that fire through it. So I'm assuming it's only going to be weapons. I'd like to see powers. I'd like to see maybe Volt be able to shock through it and deal, what is it? Radiation? Is that right? Anyways, I'm sorry. I don't remember my dual stat mods all that well. But I'd like to see something like that implemented. That would be cool. Or, I don't know, maybe anything. Any ability that can be shot through it. Even like Oberon's casty thingy. If those happen to go through her Fire Quake, maybe it could add extra fire. That's a little bit advanced. That would probably be hard to code. But I could be wrong. That would be kind of cool to see. Okay. So that's really all the changes on top of the previous changes to Ember. Gara is going to have her Mass Vitrify when it goes over enemies. Is going to buff that Vitrify, that shield thing, which I'm kind of down with. They nerfed it, and now they're kind of buffing it with this. It's also now going to show how much health the Vitrify has on a UI somewhere, probably up by her name up in the corner, up in the top right-hand corner. So we'll be able to see how strong it is, which I'm cool about. I think that's a good addition. I'm down for UI changes. Absolutely down for UI changes. If they're good. I mean, that's definitely a good change.
Mission complete.
Let's Mag. Okay, so there were some additional changes to Mag. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. However, people were really wanting Mag's energy pool to increase, and they did that. They made it go up from 125 to 175 base. So now you'll benefit even more from flow or prime flow. So that's cool. I'm grateful because I know that Mag, she synergizes pretty well. I think she could be a pretty good frame. A lot of people argue she is a very, very good frame. But her energy pool isn't that high, so she's kind of a very energy-intensive frame. So I was the kind of person where I made her more of a gunner and then I would pull enemies to stagger them, and then I would use my gun to deal damage, rather than dealing all the bullet attractor, you know, all that stuff. So I'm glad she's seen a change in that degree. Her crush animations now are sped up, which I do remember her crush was pretty slow. So I'm grateful that her animation is faster. And then the augment for polarize is being reworked. I'd have to read it verbatim, so just give me a second. Weapons hit by polarize are jammed for 4 seconds. Robotic enemies hit by polarize are disabled for 4 seconds. Okay. I'm not too familiar with all the benefits of using polarize. I know it synergizes, but I can't tell you, as not being a mag player, I can't tell you that that is incredibly dramatic. But the fact that we can jam enemies' weapons, or kind of like Mesa's whatever it's called, her second ability. Kind of like that, and also at the same time being able to disable robotic enemies. Sounds good to me. I don't know how you feel. Volt, currently, the buffs are going to like his fourth ability, his ultimate, which I think is great. A lot of people are jumping on the Volt wagon at the moment, and I agree. It sounds like pretty good buff, pretty good, you know, a pretty good rework, so I'm cool with that. But there are no additional changes from the last ones they've previously talked about. Lastly is Zephyr. Zephyr is going to be able to jump straight up in the air, and kind of, she's going to be able to, like, stop mid-air so she can, like, shoot her weapons, maybe as a sniper or whatever. It doesn't seem all that useful in most tile sets. However, maybe in an area like this, where she could jump up and stop, that would be pretty good. But in areas like this, where there's ceilings, and areas like in here, it's not going to be all that great. Okay, chill out. Chill out, Lotus. But in sections like the Plains of Eidolon, it's going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to play the crap out of Zephyr in the Plains of Eidolon. If I can fly up in the air and then stop and then just take shots at enemies, that's sweet. There are also different changes when it comes to how much energy consumption she uses with her gliding stuff. Not her aim glide, but like her tailwind. And then dive bomb can kind of go in different angles, stuff like that. So there's a little bit of different changes. Her steering with her tornadoes is now a thing, which I think is kind of neat. But
Warframe is strong.
Anyways, that's about it. The last changes that we see coming are, first off, weapon changes. There's about 100 weapon changes that are coming. I'm going to talk about those in another video because this video is going to get way too long. So we'll pass on that. But lastly is focus passives will now apply immediately when you load into a mission. So I'm assuming that's going to be like I think it's Naramon or Zenuric. One of them has like elemental damage buffs and physical damage buffs. Those will start right off the bat, which I'm cool with because I like to run them to increase my damage. I wonder if that's going to have to do with the little bubble that pops up so you can restore some energy right off the bat. That would be cool. I'd like to just start. People already do it where they start the mission, they jump out to create their bubble to get some energy. It'd be cool if there was a bubble there as soon as you start, just for that little extra. That'd be nice. But I don't know if that's considered a passive. So, and then when interacting with nullifiers, this could... Oh, this is under Atlas, Necros, and... Yeah, I think only those two at the moment. But when interacting with nullifiers, all the rumblers and their shadows, instead of them being destroyed immediately, they're just going to drain health faster. So that's kind of cool. I was always like, wow, Necros could be really good if you had a really good shadow pool to pull from. However, when you run against Corpus, it almost destroys, and even like the corrupted, if those nullifiers pop up, it's almost like it destroys your shadows like that. So I was always like, It's only really good against the Grineer and maybe the Infested at this point, but I like that. I'm not much of an Atlas or Necros, Rumbler / Shadows player, but because their health is being drained, that with the last rework, at least with Necros, to boost that damage up or boost that health up, recasting it I think is okay. Not really my thing, but the fact that now you can keep those ones alive even after they hit a nullifier bubble is pretty cool. But I'm gonna leave it there. Like I said, I want to do a weapons video type thing. I'm about to do a video for Mastery Rank 22 because I managed to pull that off with the help of a couple of you guys in my last stream, so I managed to do that. I'm gonna go through and do that at least with a Rhino build, a Rhino Tigress build. So I want to do it with Ash, and I want to do it with Frost. Maybe I can get around to doing it with Frost pretty easily, but Ash was a challenge, and I want to do it with a couple other frames just to show it's possible. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Any comments in the bottom, I will make sure to read. And if there's any key points that I think is worth talking about, I will talk about them, especially if I can bring them up to Digital Extremes, the guys that are doing these reworks. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys did enjoy this, and I hope to see you guys in another episode. Blah!